I've never done this recording thing, so we'll see how it goes. So anyway, you don't need to know who I am for the recording, but you do need to know that the CompStat theory of management and the dashboard theory of management complement one another almost to a T. The dashboard theory of management is very common in private enterprise and big box type stores. And in fact, most managers are compensated by the performance of their dashboards. But the key to it is that we wanted a product that once it was set up had limited to 0 keystrokes, and that just as I heard your introduction, that a manager could go to and in 3 or 4 different mouse clicks have the information they needed to conduct a valuable roll call or staff meeting and have the information for strategic planning and to influence outcomes. The whole goal of our dashboards is not so much crime evaluation or crime analysis, even though that's a component. The main goal is to bring value to your Spillman software and help contribute to an environment of accountability and responsibility. And so by having information that a manager needs to know within just a few clicks, we make everybody more effective and more efficient. So I'm going to start today with the CompStat Dashboard. That's our flagship product. This is version 3.11. They've been out for sale with Spillman for about 7 years now, and they're in approximately 300 agencies in over 35 states. And a lot of people in Arizona are using this product. And so, and I'll just preface then our demo here by saying the difference between this product and your analytics product is that the analytics product is designed specifically for a crime analysis staff member. And it's designed and functions for someone who uses it every single day and is in it, and that's their primary responsibility. It's an excellent tool, and if you have a crime analysis person on staff, they will use it to great value. But it's not something that most managers will get into or most executives will get into, simply because you pretty much have to use it every day to get used to it. Many more keystrokes, much more involved, gets way down into the weeds of things, and you'll see that our dashboard is like the dashboard of a car. It's going to tell you when something's amiss, and by checking your dashboard once a week, twice a month, whatever, just before you go to a public meeting, just before you make a presentation at Rotary, just before you go to City Council, whenever you check your dashboard, it will say car burglaries. And that means that car burglaries need your attention. And then you would go and run more Spillman reports or get into the analytics with your crime analysis person and learn more about the car burglaries and build a strategy. But the dashboard here that I'm presenting gives a manager, a sergeant, a lieutenant, a captain, and a chief all the information they need to know what part of their organization needs their attention right now, and can start you down the road of building the strategic plan to turn the numbers around. So that's the goal of all of our products. So here's the CompStat Dashboard. We start across the top left with the different tabs. All these are dashboards that you have access to. Down the left side is the department summary. At the time of installation, we put your department badge or patch or logo, whatever you have a digital image of. And then this area here where it says Sedona Police Department is all free text. And there are a couple more lines that you can add to it. Your vision statement, your motto, whatever you have. As you go down through, you see the quick glance on the far left. And this is a reproduction of those tabs at the top, and they just simply show you at a glance which one needs your attention. Green's okay, red's bad. So accidents are up, Citations are up. So something needs to be done differently. Some strategic planning there needs to be looked at by the traffic people. And so at a glance, and then you can go to those screens just by clicking on the red title. So anytime you see something in red on the dashboard, that means it's probably an action field. And by hovering the cursor over that title and clicking, it will take you right to that information. So now you go across the top then, and this is the date range box, and the ones above I'm sorry, go ahead.
Does that date range affect the quick glance, or is that like a year data information right there?
The date range does affect the quick glance. Whatever's in the box is what the quick glance is displaying.
Okay.
And so above the line, good question though. Above the line, these are defaults. They're always here. Month to date, previous 24 hours, previous month, or year to date. So right now, if I clicked on month to date, it would go February 1st to February 15th. If I did previous 24 hours, we know what that means. If I did the previous month, it would be January 1st to January 31st. And year to date would be January 1 to February 15th. Then I can create some custom date ranges that I can leave on my dashboard all the time because I use it frequently. And you might do evaluation periods, you might do specific holidays, you might do special events in your community, and you want to compare, like if you have a special celebration in your community and it happens every year. And so you might want to, as you're preparing for the enforcement and the safety of the celebration in 2018, you might want to look at 2017's figures and 2016's figures and compare those two figures to see what you should prepare your assignments for the coming event. And that's intelligence-led policing. Is how is the way that this appears to that. And you can see by saying new Ye's test, we obviously don't have spell check. So anyway, first quarter, June to July, you're only limited by your imagination here. You can have whatever you want, and you can name it whatever you want. And the setup is extremely simple. So we'll go with just the last 30 days. So what that means is when I click on that, the dashboard is diving back into the Spillman box and collecting from right now back 30 days and then 30 days preceding that. So I'm really looking at 60 days worth of statistics. I just asked the dashboard to put it in 30-day windows of time. So the gold is the most recent 30 days and the blue is the 30 days just before that. Then as you scroll across the top, you go to the right, and this is our location box. And when it says all locations, that's your entire jurisdiction. Then you can create districts, beats, zones, neighborhoods, whatever you want to call them, and you can name them whatever you want to name them from your Spillman area table, and you create these geographical boundaries, and then the dashboard collects only the data within that parameter of that geographical boundary. And so you get, if you were to click on one of these, you'd get all these screens, but just for that part of town. So we'll stick with the whole city for now. And then this is the default button, whatever page, you can set your own default. So if this is on every page, and so if you're digging down into the dashboard and want to go back to your default page, this is just the quick return, the anchor. So as we go down through then into this first panel, this is our major categories panel. And you create these categories and you name them whatever you want to name them. And if you're familiar with Spillman technology, part 1 are the crime rate offenses. We encourage departments to set up this category to mirror the UCR or the IBR state report that you send in every month that calculates your rate of crime. That way, instead of just reading about the rate of crime, you can track it all through the year and see what offenses are driving the rate up and take steps to mitigate that before the end of the year. The part two are what we call lesser crimes. They're not included in the crime rate calculation, but they are extremely important to the peace and safety of your community, and they are extremely important to the reputation of your department. And so they're called the lesser crimes, and you can put whatever you want in there, and I'll give you some examples here in just a minute. You could have one that says violent drugs, sex crimes, property crimes, quality of life crimes to go along with your community policing philosophy. You can have as many of these categories as you want to create. We have some agencies that have 3, and we have some agencies that have 40. And it's just, you can have whatever you want, and we'll help you do it. If you create a category for this panel, it automatically populates this drop-down box on the right in the middle with those same things, and then that's how you go from category to category within the dashboard. So if I wanted to see the part 2 crimes or just the violent crimes, then I would click on the violent crime box, and then the dashboard would go in and create, and all I have in there right now is robbery. So the most recent 30 days and the preceding 30 days, let's pick another one. I go to part 2 crimes, the lesser crimes. Have a chief in West Valley and a chief in Durango, Colorado, that one of their categories is their citizens committee. And they've created a category called Citizens Committee, and they use this dashboard to go out and do public presentations in neighborhoods. And the Durango chief has to present to a citizens panel twice a year, and he uses this product as his visual aid in that meeting. And he's got it pre-set up with the offenses he wants to talk about. And so here we have the lesser crimes, and so you can see you can put whatever ones you want in here, and you can collect as many as you want. There's no limit. And so that's how you go from category to category. Let's go back up to the crime rate, or part 1 crimes, and then see how it works. So here they are. This is the ones that match your monthly report, and it shows you which ones are up and down. Then you pick the sweet spot, 30 days, 45 days, the volume of your reports, what gives you the best trends and patterns, and everyone in the department can have their own dashboard. There's not just one dashboard for the department. However, we encourage the department to set up one general dashboard in the squad room or where others, not just managers, have access to it. But a patrol lieutenant's dashboard might be a lot different from a detective lieutenant's dashboard. And night shift sergeant, day watch sergeant, they all can have their own dashboards, just with their username and password always comes to the way they've set it up. So as we go down here to the bottom panel, now below the graph, showing us our trends and patterns, we see a spreadsheet display. And this has 3 different views. The period difference is the one we're looking at now, or we can see all these crimes per hour of the day. As we scroll along a 24-hour clock. And you can click them on and off. So the graph or the chart can be as simple or as busy as you want it to be. Or you can talk about a specific offense at a staff meeting or a roll call. Or talk about them one at a time at a Rotary presentation. Or you can see day of the week in the same manner. And also being able to manipulate the graph by showing one or several of those categories. But the period differences screen is where you drill into individual offenses. And so as we look at this, if I'm the chief of police and I'm looking at this and it says everything's in the green, so in the last 60 days over a 30-day pattern, everything's going down except for 2. We've had theft from vehicles is up 11%, but robbery is up 75%. That's killing our crime rate. This is the way that agencies manage their rate of crime. Instead of learning about it at the end of the year and not being able to do anything to help it, you can see it happening and you can say, whoa, in the last 60 days, we can't let this go till the end of the year. We need to do something about it right now. So 75% we can't live with. So let's click on robbery. It's in red, so the dashboard's going to do something. And the first thing it does on the far left is it recaps the numbers, and then it gives us some other offenses that if we're going to build a strategy to stop the robberies, maybe these neighborhoods or numbers would help us, and we can go directly to those screens by clicking there, even though they're all down except for vehicle theft. So then we come back over here, and we see the different kinds of robberies we've asked the dashboard to track. Now you can have, Spillman has a lot more flavors of robbery than just these 4. I've only included these 4 for demo purposes. But you can have, and you can say, well, okay, this one's, I'm going to click off this one because there's only one. And I'm going to click off this one, then I'm going to update the view over here on the right. And now I'm only going to talk about these 2. And so it tells us the percentage they're up. It changes the graph so we can see the patterns. It changes the percentage, so from 75%, when you only talk about these 2 categories, it's really up 81%. And so then we can scroll down here to the bottom and list all the incident reports that have generated those numbers. You can put as many on the page as you need to, up to 1,000. And if you have to have an Excel spreadsheet with this data on it, if you push this button right here, we'll export it to Excel for you. These columns are all sortable and searchable. And so the first thing I'd do if I was the lieutenant in charge of robberies is I'd click dispositions, because I want to know how many are still active, how many have been cleared with arrest, but more importantly, how many were closed or how many are inactive. Those are the ones that are killing you. And that's the ones that are impacting your crime rate. Okay? And when you look at it in this manner, you can see that perhaps some officers have a proclivity for being able to close cases without an arrest or make them inactive without any further follow-up. And that's something a manager needs to know. I could sort that column and just see it in the groups of the officers. There's all of Officer Dane's, there's all of Officer Greco's, and etc. Now they're searchable too. So if I wanted to just bring up all the active ones, I just start typing in that box and there they are. Or if I want to see all the inactives, same thing. So now we bring it and we say, well, this is the one, all other. I hate that category, but it's the one that's got the big numbers in it, and it's in red, so let's click on it one more time. Now we're just going to talk about that specific kind of robbery. So we've gone from all the robberies down to the ones that have the highest percentage. Now we're down to just the specific one. We can go back over here on the far left to any of the other ones anytime we want to by clicking on their title. But now we can see the numbers have recalculated. Here's the incidents over time. How many were at these hours of the day? You can see a day of the week by numeric. So which days of the week have increased the most? And over here on the far left, which day of the week has the highest total. So you have the increase on the right, highest total on the left, and then again we can list all the reports for this specific kind of robbery. Now we get here to this final screen. There's a couple other things we can do quick. The first one is our trending button at the top right. This is our intelligence-led policing page. It's going to tell us what districts, beats, or zones. If you're building a strategy to turn these robbery numbers around and you're including 8, 2, 4, and 6, you're wasting your time and money. You need to be focusing on 5, 1, and 7, or whatever your names are in Sedona. As you scroll through the 30-day, you're looking for peaks and valleys. What was it that made these peaks and valleys occur? What happened on December 15th that caused robberies to spike, December 15th and 16th? Somebody got paroled, a sidewalk sale, a special event, a rivalry football game. What happened and what was going on in town, and is it's going to repeat itself? What are we going to do differently? We list the officers carrying the most records, so they see their name on the screen. They see where they are in the list, and nothing more needs to be said. If they're going to see their name down here at the bottom month after month after month, they're going to know what the sergeant and lieutenant knows, and they're going to pull up their boots themselves and do better.
Is that top record for like arrest, reports taken? What's that?
Robbery.
Those numbers for?
That's robbery reports. That's what we're doing right now. It's just robbery reports taken.
Oh, taken. Okay.
Yep. Now this is something here. The incident split time is something that very few other vendors are trying to do. But we take all the reports in the category and we look at it. And it's not so much over robberies, it impacts robberies, but it's a big deal like for car burglaries or for residential burglaries or thefts. It's like I parked my car at 10 o'clock last night and I went out to it at 8 in the morning and it had been broken into. Well, we grab the dashboard grabs all those reports for this graph, and it calculates when they parked it, when they discovered the crime, and it gives us a split time for the most accurate time when the crime probably occurred. And so we do that in this third panel on the intelligence-led page. I didn't hear that.
Oh, that was somebody on the other side of the door.
Oh, okay.
Holy cow,
Hey,
pretty
Steve is
loud.
He's noisy.
Okay. Now we go up here to this button, and we're going to export this particular kind of robbery to Google Earth.
Sorry.
Nope, you're good. And it's going to take those incident reports, and it's going to build us a heat map or a pin map that shows where they happened. Click on it, you can see there's more than one. Click on it and it gives you the report number, the offense, the date reported, the officer, and the location. Has all the functionality of Google Earth, so you can drill right down in and see the front door of the property. You can add all these layers over here on the far left to the map. You can take this map and then build the burglary map and then overlay the two. You could do a citations where they're writing their tickets and then where the accidents are occurring and have two maps and overlay them. You can print it and hand it out at roll call, or you can email it to them and say, print this yourself and we're talking about it Friday at roll call, if any of these cases are yours. And so that's our mapping tech capabilities with this particular product. Again, you can save it or not if you want to do more with it. And then this final button here is our filtering. This is some crime analysis capabilities that we've added. So we think we can, even though it's a tool for managers. If you have a sergeant or a lieutenant that really wants to get into the weeds and do more, it's a very simple process of just adding circumstance codes from Spillman to that robbery list. And so you'd say, how many of them were narcotics related? How many of them were with a handgun? How many of them were on the day? If I was the day shift lieutenant, I'd want to know how many of them were on days. And so I'd say, how many of these were between the hours of whatever day watch is, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then you set the filter, and then it creates a whole new list of those robberies that match that criteria. So you can really get some detailed information about the list of robberies. So trending, mapping, and filtering are all available with this product. You always can click up here to go back to the start, or you can click your default page on the anchor. And so all of those screens and all of that information is available for all of these categories. And if I was to just click on burglary, that's big numbers. We always want to know. And so you can see I got some more burglaries in there. And you could go to any of these specific ones and then do all that mapping, all that trending, all that filtering with any category within the dashboard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, can you just do me another one quick demonstration if you're able to do that, and you kind of hit it on the map. If I wanted to look at how many citations were done compared to the collision, how can that happen on the dashboard here? That's a big thing for us.
Yep.
Can you run through that just real quick?
Yep, the citations page is right here, and it would take me a few minutes to set it up, and so I'll just try to describe it to you instead of actually going through the process. But we do some extensive setup with you when you first install these products in your system, and then we set up as many dashboards as you want us to. So if you have a traffic lieutenant that needs something different, or a traffic sergeant, we'll work with them individually to get their dashboard the way they want it. So we would help them build the map so it would overlay the two. And so here's the citations, and you put in the kinds of citations you want. Now remember, a dashboard is like the dashboard of your car. It doesn't tell you the intricacies of it. It just warns you of what needs your attention. And then you can go find out more information from further reports or however deep the dashboard goes. But let's say we just do speeding, 1 point. And we click on that one. And there were 62 citations the first 30 days, 72 the second 30 days. It's up 16%. We have the profile screen over here on the far left, which is positive. We have a list now of all the citations. And remember, sortable and searchable. So sort it by officer, or sort it by address, or whatever you need. And then still the mapping feature then is you would be able to go and then put these on a map and see where they're, visually, instead of just listing it here on a spreadsheet, then we could actually see it on the map right here. And then we could go to the accident page. And see the different kinds of accidents you've asked it to track. You choose what kinds of things are important to your community and to your assignment. And then we have a summary in the second panel. And then we give you the 6 most frequent locations for accidents in that 30 days or 7 days or whatever time you've got in the box. And this is where the assignment should be made. And then if we go to property damage, you just click on the column. And here's our trending page for this kind of no injury, property damage only. You see the peaks and the valleys. You also see the top records by street. You see the top accident reports per officer. Some guys just avoid taking crashes. And for whatever reason, this is the raw data. Then you can see accidents per hour, accidents per day in this screen. But here's my favorite button, causes. Here's all the causes. And here we have them listed, and they scroll because whatever cause they put on their state report, the dashboard finds it. And you can see it just goes on and on and on. But here we can go to how many accidents were DUI related. And there they are. 14. How many were phone use? Here's a favorite of mine, radio fiddling. It's the only musical instrument I know how to play. But 13 people crashed their car while they were changing the channel. Texting, all the causes are here. And then you go to that mapping button here at the top right, and the trending button for texting. You can see the trending just for texting, or you can see the trending just for DUI. And then and then if you do all causes, you go here to the map, create the map just like we did for robbery. Push the overlay button, pick the citation map, and it creates one map with both. Does that help?
Yes. So if we go ending up with tracks and the interface works with Spillman, would that data transfer in here too?
Yes. Anything that interfaces with Spillman, the dashboard will find.
Yeah, because that's the EPS piece that they're bringing.
But that's the key. It has to somehow end up into Spillman for any of your analytic products to find it. Okay, offenses is more for agencies that use IBR, but does the same thing as incidents. Just tracks the offenses you've asked the dashboard to look for. The nature tab comes from the nature table, and it tracks the way the calls come from the dispatch center to the officer. And so it's a way of tracking a more broad range of offenses. Agencies use this tab a lot for budgeting purposes and to monitor call volume and to look at things like how many calls came in as burglaries and ended up as trespass, how many shots fired ended up as fireworks, different things like that. But it gives you an overall kind of look of alarms, accidents, any medical calls. You can put in here any of those broad categories that you want, lockouts, escorts, more service type of things that consume your time and your resources. We've talked about citations and accidents. The roll call screen is there just to help you get more value from this product. If you're going to conduct a roll call and you say the third Thursday of every month is going to be a dashboard roll call. And so as you watch your dashboard and see which things are going up and down, then in 5 minutes you can drag and drop that category onto this page. And so I just put burglary in business and burglary of a residence. This is where the sergeant, the lieutenant just wants to highlight two specific things that everybody needs to be aware of. And you see there the trending, you see the location and the zones or the districts or beats, you see the officers that are handling the calls, and you click on it and can see what kinds of burglaries you're talking about and the numbers. And it just inspires or motivates a dialogue in a roll call meeting to where you highlight a specific activity that you want to brainstorm, make assignments for, see if Blanchard and OSIG need help with witnesses or victims or evidence because they're handling the bulk of it for whatever reason. And it's just a quick way for a sergeant or a lieutenant to be more specific. And then, of course, you could just send those particular events to a Google map for your roll call meeting, right here with this button in the center of the screen. So that's the CompStat Dashboard. That's our flagship. That's the way we track incidents and events. I've got chiefs that use it for lots of things, even other than other than crimes. One chief in Kansas uses the dashboard to track their taser deployments. Their town is very concerned about the use of tasers. And so on every law report where a taser was deployed, they can put it in the narrative, but they have to add the code TAZR, and then the chief's dashboard finds it, tells him the date and the time, the neighborhood, and the officer that the taser was used. And then he immediately and then if he starts seeing the same officer over and over and over again, then he may have a training issue. Or he can articulate the reason the taser was used and the town can be satisfied that they're using it appropriately. But he has the data. Just with 2 mouse clicks, he knows what's going on before he goes to Rotary or whatever. I got a sheriff in Florida that's concerned about pursuits. So he's got categories for vehicle pursuit, truck, motorcycle, foot pursuits. Got officers being injured, vehicles being damaged, and he's trying to, so every time there's a pursuit involved, they put a code on the law report, and the sheriff can see that code and can see the date and the time and the officer and the neighborhood and do all those same things to manage his agency if it requires his attention. And so this is what we developed the CompStat Dashboard for. Any questions about that product?
No.
Or do you think we're on the right track?
Yes.
Cool. I'll take that as a resounding yes.
Yes.
Wake up, the rest of you. Okay, this final tab. This final tab is our officer productivity tab. This is our newest product. It's getting the most excitement. People want it. It's doing things that agencies have needed for decades, and the return on investment is tremendous on this product. Same kind of philosophy, 30 days or whatever timeline you want to look at. We'll do 15 days just for fun. And then same thing over here with the locations, the whole city or just certain geographical boundaries. What you do now is create work groups. And then you assign staff members to those work groups. And a sworn officer can be in more than one work group. So you can put a person in the day watch group, and you can put them in the DUI squad if they're working a grant for extra money, or a pedestrian, or a seatbelt. And if you enter the work that they do on the special team correctly in the way we train you to teach you to do it, and you do the day watch the way that we always have done it, the dashboard will separate their work in those 2 assignments, and you can even use these pages to fill out your quarterly grant reports. And we have several agencies doing that. So you create these work groups, you assign the people to them, and then you're looking now at all the items these groups put into Spillman. And so we're tracking their workload. And so you look at the day watch down here, and you see we're looking at accidents, arrests, citations, incidents, and warnings. And in the first 15 days, they did 178. And in the last 15 days, they did 159, and they're down 10% in those 2-week periods. And so it goes through and does all of that, and then you can see this. That's the total. Then you can see it by hour, when they're the busiest, and which day of the week they're the busiest. Same as before. So then if we want to look at each group specifically, then we'll click on the one that we're interested in. We'll do the day watch. And then it shows us a summary, first of all. Takes the first 15 days here in the bottom panel and the second 15 days and adds them together to get the total at the top. So you can see which categories are up and down. What category consumed their time. And the first thing that jumps out to me on this screen from my demo database is that there were no arrests on the day watch. And it's like, how could you go 4 weeks and not have a shoplifter or a theft or some type of misdemeanor citation? So what that tells me is that there's nothing wrong with the day watch as much as the way we're entering our arrests into Spillman. And the dashboard can't find them. And we've got to check our arrest approval, our citation approval, misdemeanor cite, non-custodial cite approval process, or how they're being entered by the data entry or the officers from their mobiles, or whatever they're doing. It's not getting to Spillman where the dashboard can find it. And so one of the ripple effects of having our product is that you can see that your Spillman system is working correctly and that you're using it properly. Or if you have a coding error, or if you're doing something that's losing reports, we can find it and we can fix it. So the next thing we want to look at is the total work, or we can go down and say, okay, let's see the day watch's law reports or incidents. And there they are. First 15 days, second 15 days. Hover the cursor over each individual officer. And right off the bat, you can see that 3 officers in both periods of time are doing 50% of the work. Just visually. And you can see their percentage. And if you click on it, you can pull it out and put it back in for display purposes. Then you can see all their law reports. It says there's 147 of them, so we need to display a few more to see them all. Or we can send them to an Excel spreadsheet, or you can search and sort them. But there's a list of all their incident reports as a group. Then now we can see their citations. There they all are. So we have the number, we have them ranked, and we have their percentages. So from a high of 14, almost 15%, to a low of 1.4%. From 10 to 1. That's kind of graphic when they see that up on the screen. We should publish a pamphlet of excuses so they're not caught off guard. Again, the sorting columns that you can use. You can do that for accidents, arrests, citations, all the categories. So, and here's the one though. Well, here's the one that you need to hang on to the edge of your chair for, because we've been working on this one very, very hard. Oh, this is the total workload. So you see everything of all those categories for each officer, for the group. This is for the group. Now, if you want to see all these categories for just one individual officer, at any given time during this process, you could have clicked on their individual name because it's in red, and you'll leave the group category and go to just that specific officer. And it says their name, it says the group that they're in, it shows the summary and the totals, and there's their accident data. And you can see their accidents per day, per hour, per month, by the month. You can map them, and you can see a summary of them. It's more graphic, though, if I do the citation one. Here's the raw data for their citation. Per day. See if they're getting them all on one day and coasting the rest of the week, or if they're pretty balanced. You could do it per hour. You could say, well, I've had a bad month and I had a lot of vacation time, and that's why you're seeing all those zeros, and I was in court and I had training. Say, well, then, all right, that was 1 month. Let's look at 6 months and see what kind of work patterns we have. You can map the officer's citations. You can have a summary of them. What kind of tickets are they writing? All moving violations, and this is the different kinds. And you can see the individual officer's race profile. So you can do it as an entire work group or as an individual officer. And then if we go back here to the front screen of officer productivity, this is the part that I wanted you to buckle up for. We're tracking now committed and uncommitted time. I can say with a tremendous amount of certainty that no other vendor is trying to attempt this. And I have a love-hate relationship with the process myself. As a chief of police, I wanted this information so bad. And I knew that the daily logs that the officers filled out, or the way we were trying to estimate it or capture it, was not only time consuming, but was at best only a guess. And so now we're going to the radio log, and we're creating action starts and stops. And so not only can you do their committed time and their uncommitted time, but you can say how much time they are on breaks and meals, how much time they are doing traffic accidents, how much time they spent taking theft reports. You can break it down to any type of group, build any type of time group that you want, that you record on your radio log, and the dashboard will find it. And so here it is per each of the groups, the committed time, the hours worked, the other, and committed, uncommitted. Our database isn't very good, but the ones that we have working in agencies, all these numbers are filled in. And you can do it by action group, so you can see what you're tracking. And you can honestly say that they're committed and uncommitted.
So you're writing reports, you're on a call with that call. If you or whatever you're doing with that case, you're still on that.
Nope, not here. Let me go over here to, let me go back now, show you how to do it with an individual officer. No, I don't want this yet. Right here.
That's if you're actually in the area doing something, not just driving through. I understand what you're saying.
Oh,
But no, for STEM studies, that's the biggest thing, is showing, hey, my guy's been driving through here. Now, when you're looking for law enforcement, passing through driving through it. If you're doing like speeding enforcement, stop sign enforcement, something like that.
Yeah, I can only hear part of the conversation, but if you want to see how much time they're spending doing traffic, then they just log on. They log on and it goes into a different category. It's what we call busy. And so you have committed, busy, which means they can be interrupted. Committed means they can't be interrupted. Busy means they're doing something, but they can be interrupted. And available means uncommitted. And so the very same thing is happening there with that. So they go 10, whatever code you use, the car using will be in traffic assignment. And then a couple hours later, they'll go 1024 traffic assignment. And it will log that time that they were between those start and stops. And if they got taken out of the start and stop, if it was interrupted, then it would find that also. So here you see the radio stats for the patrol group. And you can see that go ahead.
What I was explaining to the patrol sergeant, uncommitted time is like driving through a neighborhood, not doing speed enforcement or something like that. You're uncommitted, you're available, you're not focused on something. Now we have what is called area checks. That's when an officer enters an area. They're doing something in that community. They're doing speed enforcement, they're doing radio checks, they're doing something, then that would put you into the busy. You can still be called off.
Yeah.
But one thing that our chief is looking at is staffing studies in order to do a proper, because I do the staffing studies. The hard part of doing the staffing studies is this committed and uncommitted times. And it's hard to pull from our current system. Because what happens is the guy comes in and writes a report, but it's nowhere in the system showing he is writing a report. He just comes in and does it. Well, in our system, that's all uncommitted time. So the bean counter is looking, he's just driving around. So why do you need staffing and keep driving around? That's been a dilemma.
That's been a dilemma since the Flintstones had cars.
You know?
You're exactly right, and that's what we're trying to overcome. This is our third version. We're getting better at it every single time. In fact, we just released a version this month that makes it so much more accurate. And so if they come in, now what you've got to do now is you've got to put your people in a position to help themselves and to help the department. In other words, if they go out on a burglary and they finish the burglary, but they don't call 1024, and then the burglary just goes on for 10, 12 hours or whatever, then, I mean, there's no software that can battle human error. Garbage in, garbage out. But if you can get efficient and effective at checking in and checking out, if you say, 1024 the burglary, I'll be 10:06 at the office writing reports, and then 1024 writing reports, we'll capture all that committed time, and it won't be lost in space. But if they don't use their radio, if they don't push the hot buttons, if they don't push the keys, then there's not a lot we can do to save them from themselves. Does that make sense?
For me, yes.
So you look at here, Officer Ziegenhorn. He was committed 74% of the time during this 15-day period, and he was available 25%. So this committed includes the committed and the busy, and within that, we've got categories for meals and en route. We didn't put any other things in like burglaries or traffic or area checks or anything, but you can do all of that. You can put all those in there, and all those categories are included in the committed report or busy total. And then there would be a graph a chart over here that I had on the last screen where you put all the different kinds of categories that you had in, and then you start clicking the ones that you want to add up and get a total for, and it's totaling it here at the bottom. We had an agency that's using this hard. Their agency of about 180 officers, they're knocking this thing, well, about 150 officers, I guess, 85 officers are in patrol, and they're using this committed and uncommitted time piece and the captain called up, mad as heck. He said, I got 80 guys on this software, and in 48 hours, the software lost 3 minutes. We were so excited, we all ran out into the street and shot our guns in the air, because 3 minutes in 48 hours, I mean, when we used to do the daily reports, if I spent a half hour in court, I rounded it up to an hour and a half. You know, I mean, this was so much more accurate than anything that has been done in law enforcement to date. And we're excited about it, and we think this is going to set us apart, and having this information. Just this officer tab right here, collecting the citations, the accidents, all the data. The Durango Police Department with 85 officers, they had a sergeant collecting the data by hand out of Spillman, running all the Spillman reports he could run to get the data I've just shown you. And then he would give it to 2 part-time clerks who would build Excel spreadsheets for the officers. And then they would give those Excel spreadsheets to a lieutenant who would build a monthly report for the chief of police. And between those 4 people, they were spending close to 100 hours a month collecting the data that's behind this one tab alone. Now, and that doesn't include my committed and uncommitted time. That's just the straight up numbers of paper. I asked for their payroll information, and that 100+ hours represented $47,000 a year. So they got their return on investment. They got their return on investment on this tab alone in less than 3 months. Plus, they had 100 hours that they could direct to some other activity.
Can I say something real quick?
You bet.
Okay. For the group here, I want you guys to see this pie here, because I'm the one who actually do this committed thing, and it's a nightmare to do. But going to council asking that we want staffing, and I'm showing the yellows unavailable or available time, the council looks at it and goes, well, you got plenty of time. Why do you need more officers? They're not out handling many calls. It's because they're not taking credit for the time they're tied up writing reports. If you flip it the other way, and that's all green, go to council and hey, look, our guys can't actively patrol the neighborhoods, be out in the community because they're so committed on handling calls, writing reports. This is easy to go to council. Right now, our current process looks exactly like that, to where we're available 80% of the time. And I presented that a month or two to the chief, kind of saying, hey, look at all this available time, because they'll take the call, but then they take themselves off and go write the report for 2-3 hours, but not take credit for that, which is hard when we're trying to get staff.
Well, how are we supposed to do that? Because we have to be available for calls with just a report.
You're still kind of...
it's the busy category.
There you go. You're busy, but you're still available to head on out and take calls. You're just busy writing reports.
When we were looking at it before, busy meant 10-6, which means unavailable.
Different way of thinking. There's different yeah, that's the whole thing. It's a different way. We're so used to saying busy, don't bother me, but in reality is you're just writing reports. You're available. You're just writing reports.
And you're available for certain things. You're available for emergencies. They're going to come to you if everybody else is committed. They're going to come to you if it's an emergency and more officers are required at the scene. But if you're busy and there are officers available, they're going to leave you alone so you can finish your work. But it still shouldn't be in the available time. It should be included in the committed time. And you guys, a new software system is a benchmark in your department's history. And this management team of the Sedona Police Department has got to take responsibility for managing that benchmark. You've got to look at this as an opportunity to evaluate your processes and your policies and the way you do business. And you've made a substantial investment in this software. Now, how are we going to get the highest return on investment? And if that means 10.6 has a new definition, then that's one of the simpler parts of this benchmark.
does Spillman have the ability, if I'm on a call, is there a way, like a secondary location or somewhere we can put a note that we're writing the report to let dispatch know we're writing, we're available if we need to head out? Do they have that somewhere in the CAD module?
You can put it as a radio log entry. You can create a code for that. So even though you're still on the call, you can say that you are, writing your report, busy writing your report, and then if you put that specific code in, they'll be able to pull that out of CompStat.
And that's what we would look for is if we get to that part, we remember. If the officer's done handling the call, they're not dealing with the victim or suspect, they're in their car writing a report, they can just put in, I'm in writing reports, and keep going. Dispatch can see, and I know you're writing a report, but I have this priority case. Head out that way. Okay.
That's exactly right. You've got it. Here's the final piece of this software. It comes from the case management screen. Spillman breaks out these items as these details as burglary, narcotics, robbery, crimes against persons and property. And here you see the way they're coming in to your agency. You can see how many are being cleared exceptionally, cleared with a juvenile arrest, or active, cleared with an adult arrest. You can see if these percentages match the national averages, match the Arizona averages, match whatever standard you're comfortable with as an agency. It also gives the manager the opportunity to see how many we're making unfounded, how many we're clearing with exception, how many we're making inactive. Those are all excellent numbers on this from this piece of data that we use for our demo screen. But what you're looking for here is, as a manager, is how you're handling these calls and what you're doing with them. Then you can do them for each individual one. You could just see the burglary ones or just the narcotics ones, and you can see the status and the disposition of them. And then so there's the status summary. Here's the case data. So you can see the individual cases that are coming in each different category. And you can see, too much data. You can see the individual officers. So if you wanted to say, well, okay, here's Humphrey. There's his case data for burglary. And here's all of the cases. And you can see the dispositions and the location, the zones that he's working. Send it to an Excel spreadsheet for an evaluation process. Do whatever you need to do. And you can see by month, again, for those categories, per month. And back to the summary. For an individual officer or for the entire department. Unfounded is a third of all of his reports. That may be good, that may be not so good. Really low numbers, so it's really not serious. But you see how you can get that kind of information? And did you see how many keystrokes? When you're evaluating different analytics programs, monitor the keystrokes. Lots of keystrokes, people aren't going to use it. Okay, that's 2 of the 4. Any questions?
I don't think so.
I'm going to go to the CAD screen next. We'll just hit a high overall because I don't think any of your other none of your other analytics programs on your contract are built for 911 managers. I think this is the only management tool offered by Spillman specifically for 911 centers. Rob will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but that used to be the case. So here you can see, well, the last time we talked about it was the Kentucky State Police. Here we have a call volume at a quick glance, 12,939 for the previous month, Again, the same thing. Year to date, previous month, and 24 hours. Or we can do the last 30 days and do any of your custom dates. Do you dispatch for multiple cities or multiple agencies?
No, just us.
No fire, no ambulance?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
No, we don't.
Okay, so it's all just strictly
Only-
police and all just strictly Sedona.
That is correct.
Okay, then it's going to be pretty simple here. A lot of dispatch centers dispatch and have contracts for other jurisdictions and other agencies. But it's still going to do the same thing. It's going to give you your call volume. It's going to show you the pattern if it's going up and down, your top 10 calls by nature. It's going to show you your busiest hours of the day and your busiest day of the week for volume in the center. It's going to give you a percentage of change down here at the bottom. And if I click on one of those groups, then you'll see how it breaks out. And then if you click on Sedona here, you'd see the kinds of calls that you're trying to monitor. And you can put as many on the page as you want, as many here for graphing. And it would give you the top dispatchers that received them, their volume. I guess this wouldn't be an interest here, but it would show what types of calls you're getting, and we could change this to law or service calls or crimes in progress and service calls, so you could see the ratio there. And then the dispatchers, and then the top addresses that received calls for service. Then you go to any one of these groups, click on fire. You could see how, and it could be burglary or anything that you wanted to, traffic accidents. For that specific kind of nature call, top dispatcher, the top addresses, here's the actual CAD calls with their CAD numbers. And then you can click on it once more here. You have the call count, day of the time of the day of the week that this call is coming in, peaks and valleys. But here's the part that's very, very important to a 911 manager. You could map it to see what parts of town these calls are coming from. So you can go to the patrol or you can go to investigations and say 911 hangups, or we need a community policing action for accidental 911 calls or something. But this is where you can sort them again, but you set a standard within the dashboard product, and you can use APCO or NINA, or you can have your own agency standards. And if they handle the call from the time the call comes in to the time car is dispatched and en route, or you can have the stop time be arrived at scene or whatever you want. And then red is outside the standard, gold is exceeding the standard, better than the standard, and green is right on target. And so you can click here on the dispatcher's names and you can see that Bunker was out of bounds, Cork was out of bounds, Cecil was out of bounds twice. Maybe there's a training issue there. Maybe there's a reason. Now you know, maybe there was a language barrier. Maybe it wasn't the dispatcher's fault. Maybe it was a small child or a person with disabilities. You pull the tapes on these red ones to see how you're doing and how you're performing, what kind of delivery you're delivering to the community. It gives you your average response time for this particular type of crime. And the dashboard automatically discards, not to skew the response time, but because there's some in here. Look, there was one at 480, so it discarded it. and didn't skew your response time, and there was one that was 13 seconds. And that's, something's wrong with that, and or they hung up or that didn't happen, and so that would skew the response time also. And so you can see what ones were discarded to have an accurate response time. And then you could do it for, if you started dispatching for other agencies, or if you had special events that you wanted to just track the dispatch and the call volume for like a holiday season, or for a rodeo or a citywide celebration, you could do those kinds of things with this page and do all the same things that I just did. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Then we have the radio log. Sometimes I always worry on these that like I'm talking and nobody's in the room.
We all went home.
Yeah. So here's the first 30 days. The second 30 days, your volume's up 8.3%. You can see the kinds of calls that is clogging or that is creating the volume for it. This is your radio log only, hours of the day and day of the week. How many dispatchers do I need on Wednesday, and is it twice as many as I need on Sunday? And how do I staff the shifts? When do the calls come in? When's the volume happening? Now you don't have to run all those. That takes about, I don't know how many Spillman reports to get that information, but we put it all here on one screen and you just start clicking your mouse through it. This is built specifically for the 911 managers, shift supervisors, center director or manager. Very valuable for training and dispatcher employee evaluations, and for managing the call volume. So that's the CAD dashboard. The last product that we have is the community dashboard. This is your public display. Whoop. I looked on your website just before, that's not right, time out. I looked on your website just before the dispatch and I saw the crime mapping program that you have associated with it.
It's horrible.
I couldn't make it work.
It doesn't really, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It takes half the data. It's a new world issue. We have it with some other integration systems.
Well, I didn't want to speak poorly of it, but I played with it for 15 minutes and couldn't find a burglary report, which I thought, well, these guys don't even need a police department. There's no crime.
We don't tell the public about that site.
Well, this is our version of it, and you can go online and see some other versions. This is one of our hottest selling products, next officer productivity right now. The need for transparency, the need for public trust has made this product, and it's our cheapest product. And I got to fix that. I need to make it one of our most expensive ones. But anyway, you decide what you want the public to see. So this is actually San Luis Obispo's. We're actually looking at their dashboard. And so they've given the public these options. The public can't create their own options. They can only see what you give them. And so let's just say we'll just do 30 days. And then you say, they have the city divided up and they go around and do presentations in all these neighborhoods at San Luis Obispo. And so everybody knows what neighborhood they live in, or you could do the whole town. So you can do your own neighborhood, or you can do your own, or the whole town. And then you come down here and you can see the graphs, 30 days, what's going up, what's going down. San Luis Obispo is a college town, if you're not familiar with it. You can see it per hour, per day of the week, and you can do mapping. And so let's say that I wanted to see where cars were being broken into. It's up 150%. So I'm going to click on that one, and it's going to build me a map that I can zoom in and actually just see the street. The map does not show the address. The pin falls in the middle of the block in the center of the road. So no citizen or no victim is specifically identified. You just know that it was on your block, somewhere on your block. This thing happened.
What information shows up? Can you hover over one of those?
What's that?
Oh, can you hover over one of the icons on the map?
Yeah. See, it's in the 600 block of Ramona. You can see the report number and the date and time.
Okay.
You don't see the house number. We went to great pains to make that that way, and that's it. We can skin it to your department colors. We take the Spillman Technology things off, the brand off of there. We put your badge or your flag or your patch on it. 3 departments in the last 6 months have gotten contributions for this particular software, and we put on here sponsored by Walmart, sponsored by Home Depot, and you get donations to help you pay for the initial purchase, and or even pay for the maintenance from year to year to have their name on this piece on your website. So we've got 3 departments that have just done that recently. And Glendora, California. Go to Glendora, California's police website. Their dashboard is amazing. And we've put some extra things on there that are now in the newest version of what we install in an agency. And so what you get with your maintenance with us is that we create new versions and upgrades and enhancements. The majority of them, suggestions, come from our clients and our partners out in the field. I haven't had an original idea in 2 years now. And every year every year to every other year, depending on when we release a version, we come to you if you're current on your maintenance, and we install the latest version that we're installing with new purchases and give you new training and new setup. So that's a little something extra that we offer with our products in the maintenance and the enhancements and upgrades. That's all 4 of our products, you guys. Any questions?
Well, thank you very much. You answered all my questions.
Do you think we're on the right track here?
Yeah. This is what the chief is kind of used to, and we just did a program that actually was able to do that. So he wants to click and look at all the fancy stuff. I like raw numbers. He likes the graphs and all that. Yeah,
well,
pretty things.
I think we've got both then.
Yeah.
And I hope you paid attention to how many keystrokes I had.
Less than I've ever done.
It's our goal. You say I was a Spillman chief of police, and Spillman gives you a wonderful range of reports that you can run. If you set up your dashboards correctly, you're pulling out with just clicks 200 to 400 Spillman reports. And that was one of our goals. So appreciate your time. I know it went longer than an hour. I'm stopping the recording, and I'll figure out what to do with it now.